Hello students, how are you? This is economics lesson video for grade 11, presented by me, Mr. Fusumer Mias. It is for term 1, week 3 in lesson 1. In today's lesson, we are going to start the unit 2 topic. Demand, supply, and elasticity is the main topic. Particularly, we are dealing with the concept of theory of demand. Student, as usual, let us briefly revise the previous session. Do you remember what I have discussed in the previous lesson? Good. Previously, we have dealt with the concept of models of circular flow. In the circular flow model, there are two types. Two-sector circular flow model and the three-sector circular flow models are there. Both circular flow models deals with the closed economy. When we say closed economy, it is an economy that will have not interaction with the rest of the world. There is no import and export. Simply, all the economic transaction is made by households, firms, and the government within the domestic territory. No transaction with the rest of the world. The circular flow models are circulating in a closed economy. In the two-sector circular flow model, we have households and the business sector or firms. In the three-sector circular flow model, we have household, firm, and the government. In the two-sector circular flow model, we have discussed that there are two types or two subdivisions are there. The two-sector circular economy with saving and the two-sector circular flow without saving. In the two-sector economy without saving, all the payment or all the income that earned by a household and firm is totally spent for the purchase of goods and services and factory resources. From firm side, all the income that they receive will be spent for the purchase of factory services. Factory service, the likes of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. In order to purchase all these resources, firms will spend all their entire income. In the other side, households have received income in the form of rent, interest, capital, and profit. All this resource is going to be, or all this income is going to be spent for the purchase of goods and services from firms. No money is going to be saved in the capital market. Since we have two sector flow here, without saving, all the entire income is spent for the purchase of factor service and goods and services. This is one type of the two circular flow model without saving. With saving, there will be a capital market that exists. Financial sectors are there, and some amount of money from household and firm is going to be saved in the capital market. The two-sector economy with saving, when you have a capital market, financial sector, banks, and other financial sectors exist. Here, households and firms will save some amount of their money. They are not going to spend the entire income for the purchase of resource and goods and services. Whenever we have the capital market or the financial sector in the transaction, that will encourage household and firm to save some amount of their income. This saving amount will build the capacity of the capital market or the financial institutions to provide loan for investors. Whenever there is high rate of investment, it will encourage the formation of capital asset. The formation of capital asset will lead for further production, and that will lead again the economy to boost or economic growth. This is all about the two-sector circular flow model with saving and without saving. In the three-sector circular flow model, we're gonna add government on household and firm. Households are obviously they are the resource owners. They supply resource to the government. The government will purchase resource from households, goods and service from firms. But how the government can purchase goods and services and resource from household? The government main source of revenue is tax. Tax is collected in the form of direct tax or indirect tax from household and firm. That is the main source of revenue for the government in order to purchase goods and service and resource from household. The government also supplies subsidies for some firms that mainly engage in the production of public goods. And it also gives transfer payment and the likes of pension for households. This is the overall interaction in the three circular flow model. I hope you remind that very well. Theory of demand. In economics, the term demand has specific meaning. Demand is referred to the amount of commodity which an individual buyer is willing and able to buy at a given price during a given period of time. A desire becomes ineffective only when it's backed by the following factors. There should be ability to pay for the good which is desired, and there has to be willingness to pay the price for the good, and there should be goods that are available. When all these 3 points are fulfilled, that's going to be referred as demand. Ability to pay for the good, willingness to pay the price for the good, and the availability of the commodities. The term demand embraces all these 3 concepts. That makes it to be different from the ordinary meaning of demand. Demand and quantity demand are 2 different concepts. Whereas demand refers to the relationship between the price of a commodity and its quantity demanded. On the other hand, quantity demand refers to the specific quantity which consumer is willing to buy at a specific price. Quantity demand deals with the specific quantity and the specific price. That is their basic difference between demand and quantity demand. Demand schedule. Demand can be represented in 3 different ways. Demand schedule is the one that we are going to represent, and there is also demand curve and demand function. These are the 3 ways that we are going to represent demand. A demand schedule is a tabular statement that states the different quantities of a commodity that would be demanded at different price. Demand schedules are 2 types. There is individual demand and market demand schedules. Individual demand schedule is a tabular statement which shows the quantity of a commodity demanded by an individual household at various alternative price per time period. You can see simply from the graph here or from the schedule. Whenever there is the higher the price, the lower will be the quantity demanded by the household. With 10 birr, the individual household demands 4 units of a commodity. And when it's 15, 3, 20, 2, that is 1. The higher the price, the lower will be the quantity demanded. And the lower the price, the higher will be the quantity demanded by individual household. Simply, individual demand curve is represented the individual household's demand with various quantities with their corresponding price. Market demand schedule. This shows the different quantities of a commodity demanded by different households or consumers in a market at various alternative price per time period. We're going to have a number of consumers or households in the market. each individual's demand, each individual consumer demand is going to be sum up in order to get the market demand. We might have a number of consumers, a number of households in the market. The sum of their demand will give us the market demand. For example, there are two consumers or two households here in the schedule, consumer X and consumer Y, or household X and household Y, and their respective demand is given also there. When you add the demand for each individuals in the market, we will get the market demand. For example, at price per 10, consumer X demands 4 units of a commodity. Consumer Y or household Y demands 6 units of a commodity. When you add all this, you will get the market demand. This is what means market demand schedule. We might have a number of individuals or a number of households in the market. The sum of their demand will be taken as a market demand. X plus Y, that will give us the market demand. Demand curve. This is the other way of representing demand. A demand curve shows the information graphically. Demand curve also has two types. There is individual demand curve and market demand curve. Individual demand curve refers to the curve which expresses graphically the relationship between different quantities of a commodity demanded by an individual at different price per time. You can see from the graph clearly. In the vertical axis, we represent the amount of price, and in the horizontal axis, we represent the amount of commodities which is demanded by household. At price 20, the household demands only a single unit commodity. Whenever the price decreases, the amount of commodity which is demanded by household increases. At 15 per 2 units of a commodity, and 10 it increases to 3 and then 4. Market demand curve. It expresses graphically the relationship between the different quantities of a commodity demanded by different households or consumers at different price per time. Look at the individual demand curve. We have individual demand curve for consumer X and individual demand curve for consumer Y. When you add the amount of quantity demanded by these individuals, that will give us the market demand. As we earlier discussed in the demand schedule, when you are going to add the individual demand quantities, that will give us the market demand. And the market demand curve is drawn above all the individual demand curves because that is the sum of each and every individuals in the market. This is what means market demand curve. Demand function. All the factors influencing the demand for commodity can briefly expressed in the following functional relationship. Dx represents demand for commodity X. Demand for commodity X is influenced by the price of the commodity itself, the price for substitute goods. We'll discuss this later on. Substitute commodities price can also affect the amount of demand that we are going to purchase. Price of complementary goods, products that are jointly used. This is also a major factor for the amount of commodity that we demanded. Income of a consumer, taste and preference of consumers. All these are the major factors which affect the amount of commodity that we demanded. So dx is the function of px, py, pz, y, and t. These are the main factors which influence the amount of commodity that we demanded. Okay, students, it's all about for today. To briefly summarize what we try to see in today's session, we have dealt with the concept of theory of demand. In economics, the term demand has specific meaning, and we try to see that. Demand is refers to the amount of commodity which an individual buyer is willing and able to buy at a given price at a given period of time. Here, in the word demand, there are three major concepts: ability to pay for the good, and willingness of consumers to pay that price, and availability of the good. Ability, willingness, and availability of the good. These three things are included in the meaning of demand. So this is what means demand from the economics point of view. Then we try to see how we are going to represent demand. There are three different ways that we are going to represent demand. Demand schedule, demand curve, and demand functions are the ways that we represent demand. In the demand schedule, we said that it is a tabular statement that we are going to represent the different quantities of a commodity that would be demanded by different price at a given period of time. In the demand schedule, there are also two division or types: individual demand and market demand. Individual demand simply represents the individual demand of household. Market demand represents the sum of all individual demands in the market. You might have a number of individual household or consumers in the market. The sum of each individual demand or consumers in the market will give us the market demand schedule. Again, we have the same case also in the demand curve. There is individual demand curve and market demand curve. A demand curve is representing information graphically. So there is individual demand and market demand, similar to that of the individual demand schedule and market demand schedule. Finally, we have dealt with the demand function. Demand is influenced by a number of various factors. Among from them, we have seen that there is a price of a commodity, one of the major factors which influences the amount of quantity demanded, price of substitute goods, price of complementary goods, income of consumers, and taste and preference of consumers are the major factors which affect the quantity demand. Demand is the function of all these factors. This is what we try to see in today's session. We finalize today's lesson with the following exercise. As usual, do this exercise carefully on your exercise book. Until we meet in the next lesson video, goodbye.